I am Ellie Bertani. I lead an organization called GitLab Foundation, and we are a foundation focused on increasing living wages in several markets around the world, but in particular in the United States. And we do that by investing in organizations that are doing great work in education, workforce development, and any way we can think of to drive increased incomes. In our work, we address lots of different kinds of barriers. So some of our grantees focus explicitly on helping people get through an education, acquire either a degree or a certificate or some kind of training program so they can build skills to get a great job or a higher paying job. In some cases, we work to remove structural barriers, like if someone's a student and have children, they might need childcare. How can they get and find childcare that's affordable for them? How can they get and find transportation if they need to get to a job and they don't have great bus service in their areas, or if they don't have a car? And then how do they prepare in an emergency, right? A lot of people face unexpected financial emergencies and just need a helping hand to get them through that part so they can move on and continue to progress. So our grantees, we're really fortunate. We have about 50 different organizations we fund today, and they think really, really deeply about the barriers that people face in learning, in getting a job, in holding a job and retaining it, and then moving up. And we really want to listen to them. They're the experts on the ground who know best what their beneficiaries are looking for and need access to. And our role is to help advise them where we have some expertise, but really to listen to them and fund the best ideas that we think will push people up the ladder. So for us, it's how can we best use our dollars to achieve our impact and our mission, but then can we amplify that by influencing other funders, government, other people who can really help bring this to even higher scale. That's, I think, huge success for us if we can do that.
I was able to read up a little bit about you. With your experience as a direct service worker, and now you're CEO and founder of, GitLab. How do you take those formative experiences into, your day-to-day?
My career has taken a lot of different twists and turns. I'll say the one consistent thing has been, it hasn't been a straight line, but has been influenced a lot by my parents, my values, and how I was raised. A lot on some early jobs I had when I was in even high school and college and getting my first experiences in the workforce. Although I grew up in a fairly well-off family, my parents were both physicians back at a time when not a lot of women were physicians. So I was inspired by them, and they had a real life of service. It was really important to them that our family and their children had the values of hard work and understanding what the value of a dollar was, how you had to make ends meet by yourself. And, they basically told me, when I was out of college, you're on your own, you need to figure out your own path. And so when I was in high school, I started working as a waitress, right? I wanted a job, they pushed for it, and I ended up waiting tables for 6 years when I was in high school and then all throughout college. And that was a really important experience for me, just to understand how people with very different backgrounds work together on a team to make a business successful, what it took to provide great customer service and to work with integrity, no matter how important or unimportant your job was. It became really important for me to provide the best service possible to our customers and to understand and get feedback from my team members, and to know that even though I had come from a very advantaged starting point, it takes a lot of work to be successful in any job, and that you really have to be open to feedback, humble, understanding you have to improve to get better and better. When I graduated from college, I had a degree in neuroscience and a minor in philosophy, but I had done research, quite a bit of chemistry and biology research in college, and I realized I didn't want to go into research. It didn't move quickly enough for me. I wanted to sort of feel like I was having more impact more quickly. And I went into what I call my early life crisis. When I graduated from college, I moved back home to Seattle. I was like, maybe I should go to medical school, but I knew all these physicians who were kind of unhappy because the medical profession was changing a lot at that point. And so I sort of sat down with myself and I tried to have a lot of introspection on what did I really care about? How did I want to try to make a difference? And at this point, I'm still waiting tables. This is how I'm sustaining myself. I had an apartment with a roommate. I was making it, but I knew I didn't want to wait tables forever. And through a series of conversations with myself, I realized I really wanted a mission-driven work in some way or another that was really, really important for me, to feel like I was somehow making a positive difference in society. And I ended up starting to look for jobs with nonprofits as a result. And I answered an ad on Craigslist, and it was the most ridiculous job posting in hindsight, that I think I've ever seen. It was work for 2 nonprofits, exclamation point, exclamation point. And that was the entire job posting. Contact us for more details. And it turned out to be these 2, again, impressive women who were friends, both leading different organizations. And they had discovered by talking to each other, they only needed a half-time person. And they're like, we'll probably attract someone better if we can make it a full-time role. And so I ended up going and working for 2 different nonprofits for several years. One was Rotary International, and one was a small foundation focused on access to healthcare for the uninsured. I worked for both for several years and then ended up full-time at the foundation. And from there, was very, very fortunate to interview for and get accepted into the Gates Foundation and got a role there. So it was a series of happy accidents. But what I learned out of that, and what I've learned at several times in my career, was really to be open to unexpected opportunities. I feel like that's been a lot of my career, is much less intentional, and instead it's been a little bit more organic, go with the flow. When I'm in an organization, the most important thing for me is to feel like I'm driven by the mission. And that really centers me in the work, and then to do as well as I can. I've been at some organizations 8 years, quite a while, some, 2 years, but to be open to opportunities that come, even if they're not on my path or something I naturally thought I would move into.
What kind of advice would you have for, someone in my particular position, right? Trying to find or move up in a particular ladder in today's sort of job market?
There's a lot to be said for cultivating adaptability and resilience. It's easy to look at someone who has a role like I do today and say, oh, like, you did all the right thing. No, I've had a lot of ups and downs. I've worked for wonderful leaders. I've worked for some very challenging leaders. And at each experience, I've tried to learn, right? If I admire someone I'm working for, how do I act and behave more like that person? What exactly are they doing that inspires me so I can inspire others? If I have a challenging leader, the lessons are, okay, what not to do? What can I take away for this? I never want to treat someone that way, for example. And this idea of adaptability, I think, has become more and more important in your generation and every upcoming generation, because the world is moving so quickly. Things are changing so rapidly. And so being curious, wanting to learn, this sort of growth mindset, I always want to learn. There's always more to learn. None of us will ever possibly be experts at most things. And I do think, to a certain extent, this openness. You may be approached and someone may offer you something or suggest you do something that you never would have contemplated. But sometimes those can unfold into some of the most interesting work. And with the background you have, and any individual has that may be different than where you're headed, that can actually be very additive. And finding opportunities to really understand how businesses work, how they think about employment, how they think about good jobs and workers is really, really valuable in the nonprofit space. And it's a unique vantage point that can help nonprofits be more successful. Similarly, understanding how government works, how funding streams work, why government operates the way it does, whole different set of incentives is really, really useful, again, to advise nonprofits and vice versa, right? It should be a multi-directional conversation.